Yo, these youngins don't move like we used to. Ain't throwing Sunday barbecues like we used to. Why don't they ever keep it cool like we used to? Why don't they just stay true like we used to? Hey yo, these youngins don't move like we used to. Ain't throwing Sunday barbecues like we used to. Why don't they ever keep it cool like we used to? Why don't they just stay true like we used to? Like we used
Moving
to.
in the slab down the street on some slow shit, 2 miles an hour, so everybody notices.
Our senses, right? We can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear.
In my element, on a level you never been. Where you got is irrelevant, do what you never done, and I done what you never did, and my greatness is evidence. When it comes to the money, this isn't a game. I ain't making monopoly funds, don't run from a hater. Pull up with the heaters and hop out like you hit the block with the sun. Who you know sharper than one? I'm smoking all the competition like a prime time. I'm spitting that Gucci, that Fendi, that Prada, and dropping these top of the line rhymes. Them line rhymes like dimes, cause in my mind there's no contest to these metaphors and these concepts. I got them feeling so hard pressed, they won't press back cause they harmless. Right-handed but I got a strong left, you can't handle these paws that I spar with. And like hammers I bang on your forehead and they all vexed cause I'm on next. Gotta panic and I get the bomb threat, cause the shit that I'm spitting is hitting so hard that the damage is so river cortex.
Your cerebral cortex, your fucked up cerebellum.
Bah! What's up? My name is Mickey Sun. I'm your homeboy, Mickey Sun. This is Tyson Strasberg. Welcome to Dangerous Thoughts. If you've never seen the program before, you suck. But join us and stay here because you will enjoy the program. This is episode 71. It's we're actually talking with a special guest tonight, Micah Dank, who was actually on the program just a few episodes ago and gave us a brilliant lesson 1 in how the Bible and the Quran and other texts and spiritual texts around the world are all based on astrology. AstroTheology is what he calls it. But basically that the stories that we know of as our gods all came from the stars and all came from traditions passed down from our ancient ones, and basically, you know, God and Osiris and Mithra and all these gods that Jesus Christ and Muhammad and Ronald McDonald, they're the giant spaghetti monster in the sky. They're all stars in some way, shape, or form, and have to do with the astrological sign. Leftwich, you don't get your what's up already. You start Leftwich is what's up. He's what's upping already, right from the get, straight off the get. Anything happened to you this week, Tyson, that you think is important that we should discuss this evening before we bring on our guest?
Oh, you know what? This is only the second time I think in the last couple of years. Yeah, you got a little.
My hat's got a full moon. It's like I had my cup resting up there before I started the show.
You should do that you should do that. Let's see if it works.
Sure. See if it. By the way, you can go to dangerousthoughts.show, our website, and get yourself a coffee mug. By the way, today we spent all this time, actually for a couple days now, designing all sorts of cool merch that will be up at the Dangerous Thoughts Show website soon. So get yourself some of that merch. Support the show. We are revamping the show. 2025 Dangerous Thoughts is going to be a whole new thing, and it's going to be bigger and better. And like Tyson won't run off to pee, and I won't run off to poo. It's going to be a show. All right. So sorry, I cut you off.
That's all right. Not a problem. This week, Bashar al-Assad's whole government in Syria toppled, and he fled to Moscow. Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Can you believe that? I mean, this war has been going on for something like 14 years, and the Assad family, Julian Assad, not Julian. That's a whole different Assad.
Julian Assange.
Well, different one. No,
they got the WikiLeaks guy while they were at it.
No, WikiLeaks. No, but Bashar's father, and I have to go back and look at his name. I forget what it is. But also al-Assad. You know, since 1971. Since 1971, they've ruled with an iron fist. A lot of Muslim. There are majority and minority Muslims in Middle East nations, and a lot of the minority have been being killed and mistreated, and it's awful. But it's come to an end. come to an end. He fled to
That's cool.
Moscow.
It's funny that
this morning
a
or
guy with
yesterday.
the last name of a salad could rule with an iron fist. It's such a pussy last name.
I've had a few friends with the first name Bashir, though.
You know, I think people with weak names, they get that kind of Napoleon complex thing going on, like short guys that always want to fight. That must
You know,
be
take a look at Bashar al-Assad and tell me he doesn't look like the French president from World War II. I forget his name. My God, if you put them right next to each other, they look.
Really? Well, maybe it's the
hilarious.
same gene. You never know.
It's hilarious.
Well, that's cool. You know, is that cool? You think that's cool?
It's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing.
To me.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good thing to me. How did how did I miss this? I guess I didn't watch the news this week.
Yeah, it's frontline everywhere, so it's pretty big.
Yeah. So what? Israel pushed and they ran? I mean, what happened?
No, Syrians. It was a civil war.
Oh, it was a civil war in Syria.
Yeah. Other Syrians also rebelled against the government, the Assad government.
Oh, that's huge.
Now, several years ago, you probably remember that Russia was helping Bashar al-Assad, and that he was the one dropping chemical weapons on his own people.
Yeah.
You probably remember hearing that, around 2018, 2019. It was a big deal all over the news.
The Syrian refugees and that thing.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it's over now. So
wow, awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, good news. Well, cheers to good news happening in the world, because that's nice. We always want to be positive on this show as much as we can, because the world is a cold, dark, and evil place where horrible things happen. Serial murder, bombs, weapons, power-hungry idiots, rolling things. So nice to hear. Anything else? Or was like that the big whammy this week?
Well,
no whammy. Bashar al-Assad.
I think we have a video on that topic somewhat.
Press your luck.
Oh, we kind of do. Hey, you know what? Let's show the video. We've got our guest waiting. Click Tight is actually releasing a video tomorrow on all the platforms: Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify. If you fucking go to iHeartRadio, it's there. Wherever you get your fucking music, the situation is being released tomorrow. And we have exclusive rights to their video, and we would love to show it to you tonight. If you showed up to this program to see that video 7 minutes and 47 seconds into the program tonight, you're going to get a sneak peek tonight. It actually releases at 12 midnight tonight everywhere that you get music, where you get your hip hop, where you ingest your matrix. At midnight tonight, wherever you live, it will be available everywhere you get your music. Check out the situation from Click Tight right now.
Mickey!
A big old rattlesnake.
No one's a free American, we wage slaves to them. Working 9 to 5 to barely stay alive. 95% are poor, we need to learn to chuck and jive. We're digitized, they own our life, we're nothing but a number to them. Not gonna do it.
Since the situation is the way it is,
Break the digital.
The CIA and NSA know where you is.
Fuck the government.
Got your homies in the pictures on the list.
Find out who they
Spying on our citizens, we're coming for you.
Blood running.
Since the situation is the way it is,
Get your guns
they
ready.
enslave us, use it, take no fear in them.
Fuck the government.
Until we're free, we demand our privacy.
Pledge allegiance.
To the poor man and the woman next to me. Yeah.
I'll be about my paper, dog. I'll be about up my bills, not talking gates and belly checks, not writing any checks. I want them stacks back, I want the gold. Where'd McKinley go and where did Grover blow? Banks control the dough, just blue face hunters know it. Tracking every one of them, how we spend them, where they been. Fuck Franklin, sick of him, I want back Madison. They took him back, part of the plan, tricked us, adding color to it. It was always green, wow man, we're like the queen. We fucking fell right in, well fuck England. We American, American, Amerisleep. Raised on social media, dumb as shit, like a fucking parakeet. Repeat earth, and we see no fact checking bitches. Rich don't pay their taxes, poor pay all of it. Most of us in credit debt, forced to spend more than we get. A mystery, the most expensive time in history. But large bills are mixed away. You think you in the land of free, you in the land of pay me G. With money made of steel.
Since the situation is the way it is,
Break the digital.
the CIA and NSA know where you is.
Fuck the government.
Got your homies in the pictures on the list.
Find out who they is.
Spying on our citizens, we're coming for you.
Blood running.
Since the situation is the way it is,
Get your guns
they
ready.
enslave us, use it, take no fear in them.
Fuck the government.
Until we're free, we demand our privacy.
Pledge allegiance.
To the poor man and the woman next to me. Yeah. Ever since we got the web, the internet has been a threat. It's got an intellect infected with all this incorrect, misleading information the nation put in effect. Got a whole team of techs that's tracing our every step. All we do is search for facts and answers without asking questions. It's irrelevant to teach us cause we never learned our lesson. So this is not a lecture, and class is not in session. Conversation rule the nation, use your money for a weapon. So don't step into the matrix without choosing a pill. Red or blue, it doesn't matter, it's a ketamine feel. Got us dying for the money, yeah, we bled for the bills. Keep us lying like a rug to stay ahead in the field. All this dough could burn a hole in your pocket, yo. So they turn the corner digital so they can clock the flow. Stop the rush by bending us like you would do a water hose. If you don't know where your dough is gone, then don't ask where the dollar goes. Yo, the situation is the way it is.
Break the digital.
The CIA and NSA know where you is.
Fuck the government.
Got your homies in the pictures on the list.
Find out who they is.
Spying on our citizens, we're coming for you.
Blood running.
Since the situation is the way it is,
Get your guns
they
ready.
enslave us, use it, take no fear in them.
Fuck the government.
Until we're free, we demand our privacy.
Pledge allegiance.
To the poor man and the woman next to me.
We the people.
You're muted. Start over with your unmute button. You're still muted, it looks like.
Nobody can hear you.
Nobody can hear you, Tyson.
Now, can you hear me? Fucking, I had this great spiel. I had the whole light on me already, you know, for the end of the
Go
video.
for it. Go for it.
Oh no, it's the
Come on,
moment
try it
has
again.
passed. The moment
No,
has
try it
passed.
again. Come on.
What
try
a
it
great
again.
fucking video. I loved it. I loved it. It was so good that I had to get this. Notice the lights are off in my house.
Yes,
And
and
the whole.
you're all ready. What were you going to do? Give it to us.
That's what it was. A great video.
Oh, that was a great video.
It was a great video. I love the I love the effects. I love the you know, very well done. Very well done. I mean, it was so good that just in that short period of time I had to run and get my light and get all this, and then I fucking forgot to unmute myself.
That's all right. You know.
Welcome to the
it's all right.
professional show that Dangerous Thoughts is. We
Thank
work night and day to get this
Mike Thornton, who
Thus
was
wrong.
like, Mike 1 from Click Tight. Yes, sir. Let's go, says Mike Thornton. Checking us out tonight, Mike 1. Montisa giving us some love too. All right. And we shot that video for like next to nothing. Honestly, that video was shot with a ring light, some B-roll. Actually, we don't want to give away all our secrets, but like next to nothing. And it turned out pretty damn good. So oh yeah. Our producer Catie Remore down there in the corner.
Yeah, you down there saying I did a lot.
I am the secret. Yes. I am the secret sauce, he says. But yeah, it was wonderful. And it turned out really good. I really enjoy watching that video. So that video will be out tonight everywhere you want to watch it again or share it on every platform that you know of that has hip hop music. So go check it out, share it with your friends. And let's bring on our guest tonight and have him teach us about the star gods. What do you think? Hi,
I'm
Micah.
down.
How
What's
are
up,
you,
man?
man?
Good video.
Thank you, sir. So tell me a little bit about. I heard a little bit about you getting like banned or screwed with by Twitter or the government or somebody. What's happening?
Yeah, YouTube axed my channel.
Cut it completely?
Yeah.
For what? Telling your AstroTheology stuff?
Telling for basically, yeah.
Are you serious?
Well, actually, they said it was a 2-year-old video, but I have a law firm fighting it right now. We're gonna fight it. And
what was a 2-year-old video? They say that something you posted was 2 years old?
No, it was a 2-year-old video that I did. They gave me a third strike on the day my first strike was supposed to fall off.
So what did you do that broke their rules? According to them, at least.
Well, they don't like when I share the kind of stuff that I share, but that particular video was talking about. Well, I don't want to say it here because.
Go ahead and say it, man.
Yeah, go ahead and say it. We're Dangerous Thoughts. We don't give a shit. We're gonna,
right,
we have Dangerous Thoughts show, and we can go other places.
So I was talking about how basically adrenochrome.
Oh, really? You brought up the adrenochrome.
I brought that up, and I was talking about how it's identical chemical wise if you oxidate an EpiPen. It's the same thing.
Really?
And you can actually go to Wikipedia, and that's still there. So they took me down for something that actually they could find on Wikipedia. Exactly. So I'm fighting it.
Yeah, you should.
They also don't like the kind of stuff that I talk about.
No, of course they don't, because half of this nation is, super Christian, and you're talking about stuff that goes against what most of the major churches like to scare us all with. Right. Which is why we love having you on our show, because I think both of me and Tyson believe in some kind of God. Tyson is a gay Christian, which we're
a rare breed. Yeah,
you are a rare breed. This is why I say gay before Christian. But for me, we both believe in God in some way, shape, or form. And a creator of some kind in the center of the universe or wherever God likes to hang out. But I really do love what you're teaching people. And I heard from Michelle that you were dealing with all this stuff. So I thought, what a great time to bring Micah on and let him teach lesson 2. Because I'd love to hear it. So can you kind of fill in our listeners with a real quick, I know it was a whole hour, but a quick, brief explanation of what lesson 1 was about. And
I'm gonna go over I'll go over the 12 signs and explain this to people.
Okay.
So I'm sharing. I don't know if you guys can see it or if you could put it up or.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. So people who are listening, this is what I teach, and again, this is going to be a fast breakdown of everything, but this will get you to understand it. So the first sign I talk about is Aquarius. I'm going to teach you guys the 12 signs and the keywords that go with each sign. The first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man. Now, technically, Aries begins the new year in astrology, but Aquarius is sort of closer to our new year of January 1st, which is insane that we have a new year in winter. But nonetheless, it goes back to the story of Zeus and the young boy. So Zeus saw a young boy on Earth that he wanted on Mount Olympus with him, but the boy's father wouldn't let him go. So what he ends up doing is he bargains with the boy's father. He gives him like money, land, food, things of that nature. Boy goes up to Mount Olympus with God, where in this picture right here, the man with the water pitcher, in the water pitcher, he's feeding the gods nectar or ambrosia, which is the
nectar of the gods.
Yep. And he does this day in and day out, and he gets fed up one day, so he goes to the side of heaven and pours it out, and that causes a flood on Earth. That's where the Greeks get their flood story from. So what ends up happening is Zeus, who's usually a very angry and deviant god,
Especially in that Hulk Hogan movie, man.
Yeah, he was going to punish him. But in a moment of self-reflection, Zeus, who usually doesn't do this, was like, I shouldn't have brought him up. And he starts feeling really bad about it. So what he does is, instead of punishing him, he immortalizes him as the constellation Aquarius, which is what you're looking at right now. So the key words for Aquarius is son of man or man, because Aquarius is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone, literally. Fountain, because this is how the Greek fountains, the statues were built. Water pitcher, because there's a water pitcher here. And then all water bodies, such as stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea, water bodies. Now, Aquarius is an air sign, but because there's water in this picture, it shows it as water, so they break it down as water, whereas Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water, and Pisces is actually a mutable water sign. So it's all the water examples again: stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean. So I start with Aquarius because I like to show that the first two that I talk about are water. They talk about water, basically, with slight differences. But whether you're talking about Aquarius or Pisces water depends on the patterns that you're going to make. So in Aries, you have the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. There's three different types of Passovers that occur during Aries. The first is the astrological, which is the oldest one, which is when the sun is going to pass over the equator and start to make its way back to its height in the summer solstice in summer. In Judaism, the Passover is when the angel of death passes over all the houses, and anybody that doesn't have the lamb or the ram's blood smeared on their doorpost, again, a lamb is a baby ram, their firstborn sons get killed. And in Christianity, this changes again, and it becomes the resurrection of God's son, S-U-N. So whenever you're talking about ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, that's Aries, by the way.
Okay.
The Jews are the people of Aries, by the way. They're the age of Aries, which is why they blow the ram's horn during the holidays, because it's Aries worship. Taurus is
that story of the Jewish children being killed unless you had the blood of the ram smeared on your door that night. It comes from the Old Testament.
The Old Testament of the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So or the Torah if you're Jewish.
Correct.
Okay.
So Taurus is the bull, and when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull on earth. So you see the bull in the sky, you put the plow on the bull on earth. That's how they used to do it thousands of years ago, whereas now we have machinery that does it, but they used to use the bull. They used to literally tow the field with the bull and plant the seeds as the bull was pulling.
So are you saying, depending on what hemisphere you were in, when you saw the bull in the sky, you would start work with crops and etc.?
Well, basically, it would be prominent after Aries is done.
Okay.
After Aries is done, Taurus would be right there.
Oh, they actually cycle through the sky. It's not just a calendar that we look at. It's actually up there. Sorry.
It actually is, yeah, it's real. And that's what people have forgotten. So, again, you see the bull in the sky, you put the plow on the bull on earth. I'll give you guys an example. Orion's belt is between Taurus and Gemini. So whenever you look up in the sky and you see Orion's belt, almost everyone can pick out Orion's belt. That's how you know it's Taurus. So you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow, cow being Taurus, cow being the female bull, that's Taurus. Then
now
Gemini,
the left armpit of Orion, that is Betelgeuse, right?
the left armpit of Orion.
So if you think of
Betelgeuse,
think of the sign of Orion, not just Orion's belt, but Orion. You know, he's got legs, arms, the belt. The left armpit is kind of a reddish star. It really is. It's about 600 light years from Earth. It's a super red giant, so it looks orange while all the other stars look white. And it is said that it could explode. I mean, it's right at the end of its life cycle. Betelgeuse it's about 600 times the size of our sun. It would go way out beyond the orbit of Mars if it was in our solar system. And when you look up at Orion, every time I always look at Betelgeuse. I don't know why that is. I keep thinking if I look long enough, I'm going to watch it go poof.
Yeah.
When it does go supernova, though, it'll be as bright as the moon is in our sky.
Well,
So
you
it is
do have to
something really
understand.
Oh, very cool.
You do have to understand too is that you do have the speed of light to take into consideration. So
Yeah.
if
right.
it's
It,
600 light
it could
years
have
away-
exploded. It could have exploded 300 years ago. If it's 600 light
Right.
years away, we won't see it for another 300. So it could have exploded a long time ago, and we're still waiting to see it. So
Right.
it's
We could
exactly
be
right.
missing it right now.
We could be outside blowing up right now.
Unlikely, but okay.
Anyway,
Taurus.
I
we got
didn't
through
mean to interrupt, but I love Orion, the whole constellation.
Me
Sure.
too. And Taurus I think, never mind. Go ahead.
So Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. So whenever you're talking about twins or brothers, that's Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab, and the crab moves sideways. It shuffles like this because the sun does this in Cancer. What the sun does on December 25th is it's going to rise a degree on its axis. Then the following day, an additional degree. Then the following day, an additional degree. Every single day, an additional degree until it hits June 21st. June 21st is the summer solstice. It's the beginning of Cancer. It's the first day of Cancer. It's the longest day of the year, the shortest night of the year. And then what it's going to do for the next 3 days is it's not going to rise a degree or drop a degree. It's going to walk sideways like the crab and stay at that exact side at height for 3 days. Whereas on June 25th, then it's going to drop a degree. On the 26th, another degree. And now the nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter. When it hits December 21st, from dropping a degree a day, that's its lowest point. That's the last day of Sagittarius. That's
That's when it begins to slowly rise. 4 days after the 25th? No.
Well, the 21st is the winter solstice. And then it's going to walk sideways for 3 days. So for 3 consecutive days, it's not going to rise a degree. So the ancients looked at the sun not crossing the horizon, and they would say God's son was dead. And then it walks sideways for 3 days. It doesn't rise or drop. So God's son was dead for 3 days. And then on December 25th, the sun comes back to life. This is why all the gods are born on December 25th. And it comes back to life and it starts making this pattern again. Now, in the ancient Egyptian times, the crab was the scarab. It was the beetle that was worshipped. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, that's Cancer. Then Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the savannah.
But the one thing I want to get people to catch here is that there's a point where that star begins to rise again, and that's supposedly the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. After being dead for 3 days in the tomb. Yes.
Okay.
So Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the savannah. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, or cub, that's Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when I said that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would go out and cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin or woman, because Virgo is the sign of the woman, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, these are all grainy things that are harvested in the northern hemisphere where these ancient holy texts were written thousands of years ago and still are to this day. So that's Virgo. Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over, technically passes under the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. So all law-related things like law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, all wine-related things, because that's when Libra is when you actually pick the grapes and crush the wine. So wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes. And it's also when you crush the olives, so olive oil or olive oil. So that's Libra. Then Scorpio.
All during the harvest season. I'm getting it.
Right. Well, the harvest season is in Virgo. That's when the wheat is for the bread.
Oh, and then it's making
and the barley is for the beer.
Such. Okay.
Right. So Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin, or technically when it stings you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It looks exactly like that.
Looks like a kiss.
It's where the mafia gets the kiss of death from.
I love
That's
it.
why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, then it's betrayed in Scorpio, and then finally in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. And we went over this. The last day of Sagittarius is the day of death. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, or horseman, that's Sagittarius. And then finally you have Capricorn, who's the goat. So if you look at the zodiac wheel right here, Capricorn's all the way at the bottom. Now you put a little sun right here. And every single day, you're going to march him a degree going to the left, getting higher and higher and higher. And then it goes all the way around. And then up here, this is the summer solstice right here. So what the
Would
sun
Earth
does,
be the center? No, that's the sun in the center, no? Of the sign of this.
that is the sun in the center,
Okay.
right? But what I'm showing you is basically like it starts December 25th. It's going to rise a degree, and then every day it's going to rise an additional degree, and continue to do so until it hits its height in Cancer.
Okay.
So that's
Is it the 25th or the 21st? It's the 25th?
The 21st is Cancer. The 21st is the summer solstice.
Right.
I mean, yeah, the summer solstice and the winter solstice.
Right.
The
Okay. I apologize. I thought you said 25. I apologize.
25 is the day that the sun starts.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's why the birth of.
Right. Right.
And the reason Capricorn is the goat is because if you look at this little pattern right here that this is doing, it's going to start the climb up the great mountain known as the zodiac from Capricorn.
And then I think I had a question for you last time. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had a question for you last time about whether you said this is when I just lost my question. Sorry, brain fart. So go ahead. My bad.
It's okay. Yeah, so Capricorn starts the climb up the great mountain because the zodiac is considered the great mountain. The sun is going to climb it, and it's going to go through all these signs and make stories. And that's why Capricorn is a goat, because the mountain goats climb the mountains better than anything. So we did this first piece of this.
Yeah, all the way to 70, I think.
Let me show you how this works.
Okay.
Let me check. Did we do the book of Revelation?
Yeah. We got to, I
the
think,
whole
70, I think. The last time we were doing the show. And we definitely got the idea that all the stories of all the gods, and not just Jesus and not just Muhammad, but the many gods throughout history, all came from these stories that were passed down about the stars. My question for you was, how far can we prove that the zodiac, or not the zodiac? That's a serial killer. Well, also the zodiac is this, but how far can we prove that AstroTheology or astrology goes back into? Does it go all the way back into like the Sumerian texts?
It does. I actually have. That's another part of this. I take you through about eight Sumerian tablets. So
basically, you're saying that every god throughout history has come from these stories of the stars.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
History, and I'm a huge history buff, shows that astronomy certainly goes all the way back to the beginning of time. And the main difference between astronomy and astrology is that astrology says your fate is somehow tied to the stars. Like we plant at a certain time based on the stars. We think that if you're born in a certain sign, you may have certain characteristics and stuff like that. That's kind of astronomy.
That's sort of modern astrology.
Right. But astronomy goes all the way back, and astrology with it, because since the beginning of time, not only have they been looking, but they've been saying the stars, our fate is tied to the stars. So they work in parallel all the way through history.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really interesting.
So I'm going to show you now that you guys don't have to remember the keywords again, but if I bring something up you should be able to remember what I had said when I went over the 12 signs for people who are listening. So I'm going to show you how this works in the book of Matthew.
Awesome. This is the first book of the New Testament, right?
Mm-hmm. This is the first book of the New Testament. Now, on the left, I have the zodiac wheel, and I have a ring that is red, where I have gone ahead and highlighted the section where we are. So, Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the four major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well, too. The two solstices and the two equinox, when connected, form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's Son. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. The closest of the 4 points is June 21st in Cancer. That's what I have highlighted because that's right before Leo. So that's where you're going to start. This is the firmament right here, Cancer and Leo, in the middle, between Cancer and Leo. It's the firmament. It's the beginning of the kingdom. There's a saying that in the Bible says the firmament shows God's handiwork. The firmaments are the dividing lines between signs. They're known as cusps, sometimes handover dates. It's a blending of energies. It's the last 3 days of a sign and the first 3 days of the next sign. So the next passage, Matthew 3:4, John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, I could have used a stick figure. It doesn't matter. I just chose this. We can make sense of this. So let me show you this. Cancer, being the head, is why he eats wild honey. In Cancer, there is a star cluster called the beehive cluster. Bees produce honey. So Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So they're telling you right there, when they tell you a pound of grasshoppers is 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef, what they're doing is they're trying to get you to eat bugs. It's biblical. You get it from the Bible. So just so that I could show again, Cancer, the head is in Cancer. The mouth is part of the head. And in Cancer, there's the beehive cluster. Now, if we were in Leo, and now we're in Cancer, so we went back a sign. Yeah. If we go back another sign to Gemini, so now we've made 3 signs in a row. A little lower down on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair, or camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. Camelopardalis is a combination of camelos for camel and pardalis for leopard. The giraffe actually used to be called camelopardalis, but that's why it's made out of camel hair. Camelopardalis is the constellation which is in Gemini. So now you have the head and the upper body so far. So we went from Leo to Cancer to Gemini. That's 3 signs in a row. If we go to Taurus, the 4th sign in a row, and you follow it to where it adds to, moving a little lower on the body, you would get his midsection, which is where he would wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull and the female is the cow, which is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo to a water sign? Oh, hold on a minute. Why is this not plugged in? Hold on.
It's all right. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. The next would be the baptism. Now, how are we to go from the beginning of Leo to the water sign to signify the baptism? You would go across the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are the signs opposite the location. For example, Aries, Libra. I can see this on the map. Taurus goes across to whatever's before Sagittarius.
Right. So you have 4 signs in a row right now that we made the passage. So we were in Leo. If you go across from Leo, it's Aquarius. So it's either a connecting sign or an opposing sign. Leo to Cancer to Gemini, those are connecting signs because they're right next to each other. Leo to Aquarius, you go across the wheel. Those are known as opposing signs. Here we see how it makes a leap from one firmament to the other. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water, baptizing everyone, just like in the picture of Aquarius. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decreases a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. And it's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo firmament right there of July 24th. Well, this is one simple. What is 40 days from July 24th? Because he's tempted for 40 days. That takes you to September 2nd. That's right in the middle of Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. So what's the next parable? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. So here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is now in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. This takes place, firmament of Virgo and Libra. So how this basically works is, if I was in the sign of Cancer and I wanted to talk about it, I could say something about the beehive cluster. I could talk about a donkey because the constellation of Salus Borealis is in Cancer. I could talk about a dog because Sirius, the dog star, and Canis Major are in Cancer too. I can talk about it's things like that. Now, if you're going to go from Cancer to Capricorn, then you can start talking about a goat. That's if you're in the sign itself. But if you're in the dividing line between the signs, because the energies blend, you could talk about either. So if I'm between Cancer and Leo, I could talk about the crab or everything I just brought up, or I could talk about the Leo, which is the lion. So that's basically how it is.
So take me back just to the first three passages of Matthew. Let's start again. Matthew 3:1 is what?
3:2. Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near.
Each gospel begins at one. Okay, that's the first. That's the first line of 3:2. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and the next.
Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food he ate locusts and wild honey.
Okay, which came back from the start. The locusts and wild honey came from the head of the man.
The wild honey.
And the
the locusts come from Leviticus 11, where they tell you what bugs you can eat.
Ah, okay. And all right, and I know I've asked this already, but we have actual evidence of the astrology signs, whether they were Cancer, Leo, or Gemini or not back then, but in literal, like our oldest writings, all the way back to Sumerian writings, we have this calendar.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm fascinated. Keep going.
Okay. Let me just see where I was at.
Yeah, we had gotten to.
So we got here. So it was at July 24th. You counted 40 days because Jesus was tempted for 40 days. That takes you to September 2nd. Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, measures the bread. And then the next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you were even angry with someone, you were subject to judgment. See? So all law-related stuff, judgment, that's Libra.
Gets to Libra.
And the
which
bread
is, next,
is
right?
Virgo, and they're next to each other on the zodiac. That's why they're just keywords, and there's constellations in certain areas, and you can make a story with this. And that's all that they've been doing. They've been recycling since the beginning of time the same exact
story and just using
the
it
same
in different
fucking story
times and different gods' names, and
it's the same story. They just tell it differently, and people are taking this literally.
Goodness. Okay.
So Matthew 7:15 and 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The sheep are the ram, well, baby ram in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Once again, they are opposing signs. You go from Aries across to Libra. So always making patterns. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces, as he is right beside the lake, or the two water signs. Its cross sign is the Leo-Virgo firmament. As it's crossed from Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains, is it ironic that the next parables are the wheat in the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So now we go back across from Leo-Virgo to Aquarius Pisces border. And since it's touching Pisces, you could talk about the fish. So Gemini is the sign of the two men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brother James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. So we're in Gemini because they're talking about the brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But this parable ends at the dividing line between the two, because if you were to follow that dividing line to its cross sign, it's the dividing line between Sagittarius and Capricorn. That is the winter solstice. That's the day of death. The day of death occurs in Sagittarius, December 21st. Now, how do we know this? Because the very next story is the death of John the Baptist. It always follows through with this pattern. As I've mentioned previously, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. The firmament of Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Gemini, Cancer are opposing signs. So let's take this sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation, or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who is the goddess of love. There is your war and love. If you connect it, it literally splits the land or the zodiac in half. Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The bread and the fish are opposing signs in the zodiac. The 2 fish, Pisces, which is why
Pisces and Virgo, right?
And Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk and the bread, the fish and the bread, they're opposing signs on the zodiac. In fact, Jesus feeds the masses with 2 fish, and Pisces is literally 2 fish.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the cross of God's Son. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? What stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage. There's all the law. And the parable of the vineyard worker. Well, there's the wine, the law and the wine. So next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. We're in Scorpio. And then next is Sagittarius. And in Sagittarius, you have the day.
All right, help me out. Help me out. I'm getting a little lost. Back up to the parables that are coming next. I'm not an expert on the Bible. We've got the story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, and the parable of the vineyard worker. I don't know all these stories. The story of the temple tax, what's the gist of that? Is this when Jesus walks into the temple and starts saying, the tax is bullshit?
I don't explain the actual, when I talk about the stories within the Bible, I don't go into all the little stories. I'm just pointing out the fact that a temple tax, a debtor, divorce and marriage has to do with law and what I broke up. Law and what I
and it's up. Right in the justice section of the Libra. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then the parable of the vineyard worker. So how likely is it that they have both law and wine in the same parable or in the same section that Jesus is talking about?
All justice stuff in that.
Mm-hmm. So next is Scorpio, the betrayer. So that's Scorpio. And then next is Sagittarius. The last day of Sagittarius is the day of death.
Okay, so Judas goes in and lays down this new law and says this. I remember him saying stuff about in the temple that pissed off all the figure what they were called. The come on, Tyson, you know this one.
No, I don't.
Money changers, right?
The money changes, but they were called something. I forget what they were
Oh,
called.
you're talking about the Knights Templar, and the
Oh,
banking
no.
system, or
No,
okay,
no,
well,
no. I
then.
was talking
Oh,
about
well.
the people in the temple that were, Jesus came in and said, I forget all the quotes, but he basically, said that this law is bullshit in the kingdom, and then Judas betrays him, and this goes all along with the Scorpio and the time
Oh,
of
the biblical,
justice.
yeah, and he gets mad and he throws the table over.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's mad at the it's something like a sissies or
The Pharisees.
the Pharisees. There we go. Ah! Thank you, Micah. The Pharisees, and why? And it's so blatantly obvious that it's just not stolen story, but stolen story and added to a little bit. And who is Dane Rudyard?
Oh, he was just a thinker. He said astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks
to you.
Okay. So here we're gonna go into some facts and some
Okay.
some other sort of stuff too. Again, everyone who's wondering this, what is the point of this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing if you knew how to read it. They would look at the stars and see all the movement and make up stories about them and pass it down to their children, then them to their children. Eventually, they learned how to write, and they wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to Christians in the New Testament, then to the Quran, then to the Book of Mormon. They're all encoded. Everything is encoded the same way. And I do have a separate presentation where I talk about 6,000 years, and I give you one example from about 40 different ancient holy texts, and I trace this lineage too. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So this is the second part. Jesus disappears at 12 and comes back at 30. This has been a subject of great debate, but the answer is quite simple, actually. What happens to a young Jewish boy at the age of 12? He becomes bar mitzvahed. He becomes a man. So Jesus becomes a man and leaves to study. He starts his ministry at 30. But why? The ancient Jewish religion has roots in Saturnalia worship before it. It's why their day of rest is the Saturday or the Saturn day. So why 30? Saturnalia worshippers said that you were not allowed to become a teacher until Saturn came back to the point it was when you were born. It just so happens that Saturn takes 30 years to come back. That's why Ezekiel at 30 sees God, David at 30 becomes king, Jesus at 30 starts his ministry. It's just 30, 30, 30, 30, and that's why. So the sun tells the hour of the day, the moon tells the day of the month, and the zodiac tells the month of the year. It's a perfect calendar where we are. It's a fingerprint of creation for us to have everything working like a clock like this. We know the biblical flood never occurred because there were great civilizations thriving during that time. They kept good records and neglected to mention that they were all wiped from the face of the earth. The Chinese Neolithic dynasty, the Egyptians dynasties 4, 5, and 6, Mesopotamians early dynastic period, Sumerians early dynastics 3A and 3B, Peruvians Norte Chico civilization, and more. We find a continuous line of culture, construction, art, and historical records that runs through the town. Noah's flood was supposed to have happened.
Okay, so all this stuff. I mean, even the ancient Sumerians talk about the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Great Flood.
Right.
But you're
Yeah,
saying the time of. the timing is off on all these other stories of the
Well, that all these things got destroyed by the Great Flood is off. That I agree with. But every culture does have a story or a myth of a Great Flood. All of them do, and it's usually around the Younger Dryas, which is when the flood myth, and even looking geologically, we see signs that there was a time when water covered more of the earth than it does today. So again, also about 13,000 years ago in the Younger Dryas.
Which would be totally wrong for all
I'm talking about the biblical flood.
Yeah.
Right.
The biblical flood never happened. Do you know how else you know the biblical flood never happened? Because there's a guy in Kentucky named Ken Ham. And he's a Christian, and he likes to debate Bill Nye and all sorts of people. And he built an art museum in Kentucky. I've physically been there. This is the
not
place
that guy with the dinosaurs from 5,000 years
Yes,
ago.
that's exactly it. And I've done it. Well, my channel's gone now, but I did a thing on it where I just showed everybody, look, here are the dinosaurs with the grain, and the women are just chilling and whatever. He built this ark specific to size. It cost $111 million. He built this ark, specific size, specific dimensions as per the Bible. And you know what happened? They had a flood, and it flooded. And you know what,
Sorry.
you know what else happened? You know what else happened besides the fact that it flooded? Besides the fact that it flooded, he tried to put an insurance claim in, and they told them acts of God were not covered, so they denied him.
That's even better. The other part of that story, besides just the flood myth, is the two of every animal. One, some of the animals on the ark eat animals as part of their diet. So you would have to have more than two. You would also, all you would have are inbred creatures if you only had two of everything.
If you only had two of everything, they'd all
we have cats here. My sister's a cat lady, and I can get into that later. But we've
all
had
the
inbred cats,
that would
and
be crushed under the animal's feet, and
well, the inbred cats get kind of.
It's so dumb that we take this shit completely serious, or that some people take this stuff completely seriously.
The Big Bang Theory made a huge joke about that when the mother, who's the ultra Christian, and of course Sheldon, he's all, "What did the lions eat, mother?" And she said, "Why, the floating bodies of the non-believers, of course." It was hilarious. Like, Christians will make up these stories about what. It's funny, but I agree. It doesn't seem logical that you would have two of every creature, and that they would procreate in such a way that they wouldn't be inbred, because they would have to be. For that matter, how did Adam and Eve have kids who had kids with who?
Yeah, and it also doesn't make any sense that you would have the stars that Micah talks about that rest for 3 days in the sky and move sideways like a crab during the death of Christ, and then begin to move
prograde and retrograde
of the sky.
Yeah,
and you would have 30 gods plus, with all very similar stories based on those stars. That it just all makes perfect sense to me.
It didn't mean to interrupt the whole thing. I was just curious about the Younger Dryas and the floods, and that I think really did happen. But the biblical,
floods
I agree,
happened.
The biblical
and
flood,
then also tsunamis happen. So floods happen all over the world all the time. I mean, tsunamis are gnarly. In the ancient days, if you had a tsunami, that could start a whole myth. Anyway, it's a thought I had. Go ahead, Micah.
Sure. So Moses goes up to get the 10 Commandments. When he comes down, he sees them worshiping a golden calf. What's more likely? What's more likely?
Okay, he goes up to the
Jews got run out of Egypt. They couldn't even let the bread rise, which is why we have matzah to this day. They rushed to the desert with just the clothes on their back, but happened to carry enough gold between all of them, then found welding equipment somehow in the desert and built a giant statue. Or the sun is the gold and the calf is the bull of Taurus. They were worshiping the sun in Taurus, whereas they are the Jews, or the people of Aries, the ram. So he breaks the commandments, becoming the first lawbreaker. They're trying to bring back bull worship. They constantly do this like, for example, before the third temple has to go up, They have to, one, destroy a Islamic mosque that's the second holiest site in, I think, Israel. And I think it's in Israel. And they have to sacrifice a red heifer. They're trying to bring back the bull worship. It's always about bull worship, because that's what the ancient Egyptians were.
And also because that's when you plant the crops, right? I mean, that's when the
Right.
food, yeah.
Exactly.
Wild.
So let me see here.
Ooh.
In the year 1367 BC, well before Moses, Akhenaten established monotheism under a sun god in Egypt. Abraham, as the story goes, started the one true God belief, but that's just not true at all. In fact, during this time period, there have been found plenty of fertility gods and goddesses dug up in current times that the Jews have made. In fact, Moses is a character who's based on two Egyptians, Akhenaten, who's the basis of Moses, and Tuthmosis, which is where he gets his name, hence Moses.
Moses. Oh my goodness.
Now, the Egyptians kept pristine, meticulous records about their history, even the things that they were unflattering or painted them in a bad light. There is zero evidence in the Egyptian records of Exodus happening, of Moses, of the plagues, of the Red Sea parting. There is zero mention in the Bible, too, of the pyramids or the Sphinx, which is odd. You would think that would have come up.
You would have think.
So now check these out. These are the gods, simply and always.
Do they mention the pyramids?
Not once.
Oh my goodness.
So simply and always has been described the path of the sun over the ecliptic as the sun dances its way around the 12 zodiacs. Mithra, born on December 25th, the Immaculate Conception. He is the sun god and Messiah. 12 disciples accepted sins, was killed then resurrected, becoming God incarnate. Cult includes communion, baptism. Adonis, born December 25th, Greek god of fertility, aka Babylonian Tammuz, aka Syrian savior. He was killed and buried, resurrected 3 days later. Dionysus, born on December 25th as a result of the Immaculate Conception, Greek god of winemaking, aka Bacchus, aka savior and liberator of mankind, naturally with communion. Osiris, born in late December to a virgin.
Here's all the gods I was talking about, Tyson.
Egyptian sun and underworld god, aka Judge of the Dead, aka one of the Egyptian Trinity.
They all have the same story.
Ruled over 12 kids, betrayed, killed, buried, risen after 3 days. Horus, born December 25th to Isis as a result of Immaculate Conception from the spirit of Osiris. God of the sun and light, one of the Egyptian Trinity, embodying the resurrection. December 25th, the day of the resurrection of the sun. All the gods are born then. Now, if you look at chapter 125 of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the declaration of innocence before the gods of the tribunal, you'll see three things. O swallower of shades, who came forth from Kernet, I have not slain people, becomes thou shalt not kill in the Old Testament. O doubly evil one, who came forth from the Brucerite gnome, I have not had intercourse with a married woman, becomes thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife in the Old Testament. O he who prospers the common people who came forth from Asiut, I have not cursed a god, becomes thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. And in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, if you were to look at the 42 positive affirmations of Mot, you'll find the rest of them. In just this one chapter in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, you have 3 of the commandments, because everybody borrowed from everybody.
In that second bullet point, could that also be not to commit adultery? Because that's also having sex with a married woman.
Yeah.
Which is, well, again, one of the 10 commandments is thou shalt not commit adultery.
I suppose that would work too, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've not had intercourse with a married woman. Yeah.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. Yeah, so I think it's both not covet thy neighbor's wife and the adultery. Shall not commit adultery.
Covers both, actually. So sorry,
covers
4.
Both.
Then 4,
are in the first
4 out of 10.
And that's the first chapter of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The first.
This is chapter 125 of the Egyptian.
Chapter 125. Okay, I have that on my shelf at home.
Oh, what's the name of the Book of the Dead? And not the Egyptian one, not the Necronomicon. There's an Egyptian Book of the Dead. Yeah, not the Necronomicon. There's an Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I can't remember what its name.
It's called the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
No, there's a name for it though.
Really?
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I feel stupid now.
Well,
So-
we're all stupid. We've been dumbed down. We're Americans. It's all right. But I have the Egyptian Book of the Dead on my shelf at home. I just need to read it.
I have it too. It's rather large.
Yes, it is. And I bought it about 10 years ago and read a chapter in, and that's about all I got. A Lazarus. A Lazarus. A Lazarus is Osiris. Oh, I like this. Okay, what's this one?
Lazarus is Osiris, who Horus raised from the dead. The Greek name Lazarus equals Eliezer in Hebrew and means whom God helps. It's a strange coincidence, firstly, that the person whom Jesus resurrects happens to be named whom God
helps.
And secondly, that Eliezer, or breaking down its original components in Hebrew, Elazar, closely resembles a combination of the Semitic word for God, El, with the Egyptian name for Osiris, Osir. So when they're talking in the Bible of Jesus resurrecting Lazarus from the dead, that's another borrowed story.
Of course. Yeah.
So the ancient Egyptians used to worship the sun in Taurus. Here you see the hieroglyphs of the bull with the sun between its horns. Right? Now the Jews are the people of Aries. That's why they blow the ram's horn to the sky in the holidays. Now the Christians are the people of Pisces. That's why they have the Jesus fish as shown below. This is also why Jesus is able to feed the masses with 2 fish. The 2 fish are Pisces. So this is the Vesica Pisces, and if you do this to it, let me not do that. Okay. That's the Jesus fish. That's 1 fish.
A couple of calendars sat on top of each other.
Right. And here's 2. There's the 2 fish. Now, the other thing is, that's in math. That's the Vesica Pisces. John 21. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. Well, it just so happens that if you were to find the mathematical equation of this little fucker, it's 265 over 153. So they knew mathematics back then. They weren't stupid.
No, they weren't.
Otherwise, why count the fish out? Right? Unbelievable. Look,
yeah,
One World
didn't need
Religion
a big
headquarters set
inventory.
to open.
Oh, this is getting good now. Oh, it's another what's it called, Tyson? The Council of Nicaea is happening again.
Well, the Council of Nicaea was very specifically Christian. It was called.
Well, I know, but we're looking at something. One World Religion headquarters set to open next year. What religion are they picking?
That's when you combine Islam and Christianity.
Good idea.
Well,
anyway.
Islam and Judeo-Christian are all branches of the same beginning religion. I forget where Islam breaks off. It's the brothers, and I forget. One goes with Moses and that becomes the Judaic, which later is the Christian, and then the Islam goes with the other brother.
What a bunch of ridiculous bullshit.
Ishmael goes off with Ishmael, and that becomes Islam. But Allah, the Islamic God, is the Judeo-Christian God. It's the same God. You know, it's just we all branched out. So Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all come from the same religion initially.
Yeah, and all come from these the stars and these stories. And to me, like, all right, so I'm going to tell the viewers now that, and you know, it's for them to decide. I still believe in a creator God. I still believe that there's something out there that's running.
This does not take away from creator God.
No, it doesn't. Right. I just think that it does take away from these stories about Jesus Christ and Mithra and Osiris and all these things that were supposed to be gods when really they were just following a calendar to keep themselves alive and living and happy. They weren't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this that you see right here, the Synod of Jamnia, happened in 100 AD. What they did was they got a bunch of rabbis together because at the time the Old Testament was not canonized yet, which means that the books were all out of order. For example,
this was 100 AD.
100 AD.
Yeah.
So what happened was they had to canonize the Bible. So where they put the book of Job is actually the oldest by far book in the entire Bible. But Genesis is the first book. They put these in specific orders. They tried to do that. Now, it's interesting because 30 years prior to this meeting, the gospel came out, the Gospel of Mark. It is the oldest gospel, and it came out at 70 AD. And during the time, the rabbis were actually deliberating whether or not to put the Gospel of Mark in the Old Testament. So this was completely man-made. Which I'm sure.
Right, because Mark is the second book of the New Testament.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is probably what happened in Nicaea.
Very similar, I would assume. Yeah. And in fact, people want to know source. This is from the Encyclopedia Britannica. So it's out there. The information is there. They just count on people to be too ignorant to read.
Yeah.
Genesis 32:30.
The Council of Nicaea was in 300 AD, so it came after this, and
yeah,
it was more
later,
about.
They were still
Right,
putting
and
things in order, and they were
right.
You know, they were still picking which ones were going to go in and which one. So they kicked 60 something books out, but they were still.
Enoch, the Book of Enoch didn't make it.
Yeah.
There were other books, and they discussed whether things were metaphors or whether they were real. Was God, was Jesus man or was he God? Right? Was he deified? He was deified in the Council of Nicaea. So there was a lot of change.
Not only deified, but also considered law from that point on, and then the Crusades happened, and etc.
Yeah. Right. I'm sorry,
anybody
Micah,
that doesn't believe our patriarchic, God gets sacrificed unless you believe.
John the Baptist was the first pope.
It's all some really goofy shit. All right. Back with you, Micah.
John the Baptist, according to that, was not the first pope.
No?
It was Simon Peter.
Oh, Simon Peter.
There's
debate.
There's debate over that.
Well, there's
in the Catholic religion in the Catholic religion they teach that John the Baptist was the first pope, but that may not be true. Yeah. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's what they teach.
Why? Because he was dipping everyone in the river.
He headed up the first church of Christ, basically.
I get it. So you call him the first pope, but he wasn't even Catholic.
That they didn't have popes back then, I don't think, but they recognized him as the first pope. Anyway,
just having fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So
take back over, Micah.
Sure. So Genesis 32:30. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Well, Peniel, over time, becomes something that you guys recognize.
Ooh, the pineal gland.
Pineal. And this picture right here on the left is the Eye of Horus from the Egyptian times. The picture on the right is a sagittal cut. It's a slice of a human brain like this, and it opened up.
Wow, it looks exactly the same.
That's the pineal gland.
I would like one of those to chew on.
And then right above it is the corpus callosum. So the pineal gland does a couple things. It's got calcium carbonate crystals that change in pressure, which is known as the piezoelectric effect. What would basically happen is if I were to drain your pineal gland with all the juice, there'd be crystals in there. And if you were to smack them with a hammer, colors would fly out of them. That's the piezoelectric effect. Now, it also releases DMT twice in your life. The first time is when you're sleeping, but you're dreaming. That's what you're dreaming, is the DMT release. And the other time that it does that is as your body's shutting down to die, your body is flooded with DMT. It helps you transition.
Awesome. That's beautiful because I've smoked DMT on a number of occasions, and it is a wonderful experience. And if death is anything like that, I am stoked.
You got to realize is that the religious people, guys, they market one thing. They're very good on one thing. They capitalize on people's fear of death and
fear of death, yeah. And it's such a stupid thing to fear.
Right. But we're not taught, hey, you'll live forever. Hey, you're going to be, you're going to.
Hey, yeah, this is just one little blink in
right.
Your what I believe is your, for lack of a better word, spirit or souls or light bodies journey throughout the quantum verse. And that's really neat that the pineal gland is exactly like the eye of Horus. What do you draw from that?
They knew. The ancients knew. They absolutely knew.
Yeah.
So the interior of the pineal gland has retinal tissues composed of photoreceptor cells and is filled with vitreous fluid, just like the eyes. It is actually wired to the visual cortex, and in certain reptiles it has a cornea and a lens. Now here's the thing. In many Buddhist traditions, 49 days is the total mourning period, with prayers conducted every 7 days across 7 weeks. The Jews have a 49-day time period. It's called a Jubilee, which is a 49-year period. They also have what's known as Lag BaOmer, which is when they count 49 days to count the Omer. The Catholics have something called the Pentecost, which is a 49-day time period after Easter. That's when you start getting your communions, your confirmations, everything. And Easter, by the way, is always the Sunday, the first Sunday after the full moon, after the spring equinox. That's how you figure out every year that's Easter. Now, here's the thing about 49. The Buddhists believe that rebirth takes place after 49 days after death. And it just so happens with the technology we have now that the pineal gland becomes visible on the 49th day of gestation.
What do you mean of gestation? What's gestation?
Well, from an embryo, when a fetus
from an embryo to so on the 49th day the pineal gland becomes visible.
Right. That's why everybody has this 49-day time period that they worship, they revere, this, that, and the other thing. Absolutely. That's when your soul comes into your body.
Wow.
And the ancients knew this. So let's talk about hell, the flaming inferno, right? This is where I'm going for teaching this, right? So
from what I remember, I didn't read anything about this place in the Bible, but go ahead.
So how do we detect pain?
With our nervous system.
The nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord, the nerve endings, the neuron, everything. So that's how we detect pain and temperature. So let me ask you a question. When you give up your body and you become your spirit again, that you've always been, and you just shed your body.
Your avatar.
Exactly. How are you supposed to burn in a lake of fire if you don't have a nervous system or a physical body to burn?
Yeah. Well, for that matter, how are you supposed to see or hear? But they say you can do that in the afterlife too.
Well, I've done that, smoking DMT and leaving my body. So I saw and heard in that experience. I didn't know who I was in any way that I can relate to you now. But
you don't have the organs to see or hear. So I think in that same text, when they talk about the lake of fire, there's an assumption that if you can see, if you can hear, you can also feel. Now, right, if you're talking about just from a biological standpoint, you can't feel because you no longer have a corporeal body. You know, you're
no longer have a nervous system to make you
right.
hurt.
You're what is that called? You're oh God, I know the name and I can't think of it. You're decorporal. I have to.
Your son of a bitch bone. Your funny bone.
Can't I think? Today I had a nap and I should never. Is my camera still off?
No,
darn it.
you're gone. But Tyson,
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Get it
My
together,
camera
man.
is gone. The camera's been flipping out.
I love
But yeah,
this,
I mean,
though. How could you burn in a
how
lake
do you
of fire if you're a light being and you've left your body? You could.
But how can you see and how can you hear? But you can do that too. I don't know.
Well, because light bodies and spirits and souls.
Your optical orbs are
amazing
gone.
things.
Your
You don't
inner
need
ear
them.
is gone.
Those are all things that the spirit, gives life to while it's here, but the spirit takes the life on. So, you even hear about these guys and gals that do, that leave their bodies on in not near death experiences, but we were just talking to somebody last week where they go out of body. And they can see, and they can, people that remote view can see, and they're out of body, but they're still seeing and viewing and looking at things with their eyes closed, gone from their bodies. But they don't feel pain. And they don't burn in lake of fires.
Let me show you what the thing is. Hell is actually this. Hell is actually winter on Earth.
Yeah, makes sense.
The idea,
I always thought if there was any hell, it would be where we are now, because this is where it hurts.
Yeah, the idea of a fiery pit where you burn for all eternity is ridiculous when you think about it logically. Hell is actually winter on Earth. Why? It's cold, the vegetation and beautiful flowers and plants are dead, the trees shed their leaves and bear no fruit, it's freezing cold out. People tend to get sick more often. Dangerous animals, if they're not hibernating, are starving and scrounging for food. It's dangerous for humans. The Italian word for winter is inverno. And if you flip the letter inferno and word its meaning, you get the concept of hell. This picture is Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy. Satan's in the bottom level of hell. And look, he's frozen.
And he's freezing. He's not burning.
I'll show you this. The Bible even says it. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. When do you gnash your teeth? In the cold or the hot?
The cold.
It's in your face and people just don't think about it.
Yeah.
So let me see here.
Disincorporated. That's the word I was looking for. Disincorporated. It came to me like 5 minutes later.
Yes. You don't need eyeballs and all this stuff to.
Yeah.
This is just the place that we learn what we're learning in this lower natured ladder of wherever we are in reality and consciousness.
Lucifer was supposedly the most beautiful angel in heaven, yet we depict him as red with horns. Really interesting.
Well, I talk about that real quick. So Satan doesn't exist. He's not a red devil with a tail and a pitchfork. In fact, in the earliest paintings of him in the 900s, he was actually blue, hence where you get the Duke Blue Devils.
Blue Devils. There you go.
The Hebrew word for Satan is Hashatan, which literally translates to adversary. In proper context, two competing sports teams are Satans to one another. Lucifer, he is known as the light bringer. In Genesis 1:3, and God said, "Let there be light." How can there be light without the light bearer? Lucifer is immediately mentioned in the Bible, if not by name, but by action and purpose. Lucifer is also known as the morning star. The morning star is also known as the planet Venus. The reason is that if you look out into the sky just before sunrise in the east, you will see a bright light directly above it. That is Venus. It announces the arrival of God's only begotten Son, the light of the world. It lights the way. Lucifer is also known to have a pentagram. That's his symbol. Continuing with Lucifer as Venus, if you follow Earth and Venus's orbit around the sun in a year's time, they almost connect at 5 points. You connect that, it looks like this, you get the pentagram. That's how the ancients knew this. Now, the other thing that they also knew was that early Christianity adopted the pentagram as a symbol for them instead of actually not doing that, because the pentagram had 5 points on it, which to the Christians represented the 5 points of infliction on Jesus. The hands, the feet, the spear, the crown of thorns.
And the crown of thorns, yeah.
But to many pagan religions, this is a very beautiful symbol that is worshipped in a way that is, or used in a way that is nothing about pain and suffering.
Yeah. In fact, pagans, 1 point down showed winter, 1 point up showed summer. The pentagram's been a million things to a million different things, but the Christians actually had it as a symbol at one point.
The Buddhist,
and a positive
the Buddhist temple
symbol
of
too, right? Yeah, it wasn't the sign of the devil.
No.
Well, the swastika came from Buddhist religion, and it was not considered an evil sign. We think of it evil today because the Nazis used it.
Nazis, but yeah, it was
right.
Well, I actually talk about the swastika.
Yeah, there.
Let me show you real quick.
All right.
The swastika. The swastika, if you read Wikipedia, for example, talks about its origins of ancient times, from ancient religions and its peaceful meaning. Again, tweak it a little and pervert the meaning, and you get the modern day piece. We see that will never be reclaimed as a peaceful symbol, but it goes further than that. The swastika isn't Buddhist or Hindu, Babylonian or Syrian or Sumerian. It's actually astrology. This is the oldest swastika that we found. It is 17,000 years old, and it is from the Ukraine. Okay? What you do to get the swastika is it's astrology again. What you do is the Big Dipper rotating around the North Star is shown here on the solstices and equinox. Connect them, you get the swastika. Everything goes back to astrology.
And of course it does.
Yeah, and I'll just share Baphomet real quick, and then that's pretty much the end of the second part.
Okay.
Eliphas Levi's name's here. He's also the first person to invert the pentagram. Now, the goat sign right here is Capricorn, the goat. The sign of the man is Aquarius. Capricorn and Aquarius are connecting signs on the zodiac. Baphomet has breasts because it is... People are just so scared of this. The ancients knew that the divine was both masculine and feminine.
Of course.
Masculine left brain and right brain feminine. It's why Baphomet is a man goat with breasts. He is literally just a hermaphrodite. Just like this. Just like the Star of David. This is the rudimentary phallus symbol, so to speak. It is known as the blade. This is the rudimentary sign of the womb, the chalice, the feminine.
Put them both together, you get the Star of David.
It's a hermaphrodite. Yeah, it's sex magic. And
why are people, and the reason people are so scared of this is because these religions of these Christian religions, all the different types, have been poisoning people against the idea of the devil and Satan and Baphomet and telling all these horrible stories that have nothing to do with what the texts say and nothing to do with the stars for years and years and years, to the point where even guys like me and Tyson, well, Tyson's a Christian, but even guys like me who aren't a Christian, I have a pagan wife that is my heterosexual life mate. I'm bisexual. She has Baphomet statues and satanic statues and all different statues around the house, and she's a witch, and she worships the earth and different lots of different things. And I sometimes even get scared of them because I've been programmed by this, are you getting into devil magic? Are we worshiping Satan? Because I don't want to get any bad stuff in the house,
Right.
And I make sure, it's funny to me that even I'm scared of Satan, which I know for a fact doesn't exist.
We have another professional witch standing by, waiting to talk to Micah.
Oh, are we taking callers tonight? Oh, yeah, we are, aren't we? Shoot. All right. Micah.
She's our only caller, though.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good. Catie, how are you? Micah, as always, I just want to say thank you for that. That was a fascinating bit of information there, and I always want this show to go like 3 hours because it's fun talking to you. But go ahead, Catie. Ask Micah a question. Well, to me, this stuff is so obvious, Micah. I just want to say thank you for coming
Oh
on.
yeah.
I'm sorry that you've been banned for trying to teach people that, just knowledge. And I hope you win your case, and whatever we can do to help, reach out. Go ahead, Catie.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to ask you, you'll have to excuse me, I've got a head cold. But one thing that I wanted to ask you is, you were talking about the Great Flood, and that it's in like all sorts of mythology, different religions. With that being said, do you subscribe to that being part of the Great Reset?
Which part of the Great Reset are you talking about exactly?
The flood.
I think it happened 12,000 years ago, because I think civilizations only have about 12 to 15,000 years before something happens and sets us back. I think there's a lot of evidence for that, and I think you'll see it now too. We're reaching it. Like Yellowstone's going to blow one day, and that's going to take out half of America. It's already overdue, and it's already starting to spit up.
And it's not only going to take out half of America; it's going to cloud the skies for 20 years and make life on Earth very hard. We're going to lose a lot of people when Yellowstone goes.
Yeah.
As long as it happens in the 2100s, I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it happening, tomorrow, because
you're a little closer than I am.
Death is like DMT, man. It's just a transition. It's gonna be all right. I promise you. We're just
Yellowstone is where? Wyoming.
It's pretty close to us.
Avatars, if Yellowstone pops, for sure. We're too close.
Oh yeah. Colorado's way too close. Yeah, I'm in Southern California. I'm some survivable distance away.
No, it'll get you too.
No, but it'll get you first.
Yeah, it'll get me first. I'll come over in my spirit body and help you through it.
All right.
So why 12,000 years ago?
I wanted to address something that Tyson was saying earlier about when we leave our bodies, we're disconnected from our central nervous system, so we can't feel, we can't see and hear. But astral projection is also when you disconnect from your body. I have done astral projection, and I can still touch things, I can still see, and I can still hear things. Although my visual perception is different, my hearing is different, and my touch is different.
Yeah,
I still have those senses.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the human body experiences sight, touch, taste, sound, etc. through the nervous system.
But we're also limited.
We're also very limited.
We only see and hear 1% of the spectrum.
Yeah, we are.
If you actually were able to see 100% of what's going on, you would go insane. You wouldn't be able to handle it.
Oh yeah.
Just watching the little, particles flying in and out.
If we could hear the entire sound spectrum, if we could hear the sound of the particles, if we could hear,
there's a reason we have filters on.
Tyson says this all the time. He says, we have, I think we have more than 5 senses in the human body, but still very limited.
We have minimum 6.
But if you just go taste, touch, sound, blah, 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 it's 5 senses. And he talks about there being, like an amoeba with only 1 sense in a petri dish and what it's experiencing compared to the 5 senses that we're experiencing. Right. But still, we're what's the difference?
What
between
if we
1
could
and 5
experience
is almost
10?
Nothing. What if we had 40 senses? What if we had 60 senses? What if we were biologically equipped to have trillions of senses? Like, what would that?
Well, and that's the point of the nature of reality. Reality is so much more than we can perceive. If we say reality is only what I can perceive using my 5 senses, what I can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear is all reality, you're missing 99% of reality. You're only getting 1% of reality, right? What dimensions do particles really pop in and out of existence, or are they existing somewhere else that we can't perceive, and they're transiting through our tiny sliver of perception before they transit out of our perceived reality, right? I think they continue to exist. They're just transiting a piece of our reality that we can perceive. And so from our perspective, they're popping into existence and popping out of existence. But they're not. They're really transiting through our little slice.
Through real quick. Yeah. of the multiverse. They're running around the multiverse because they're cool particles that can do that.
Well, someday I'll be
quantum verse. I like to call it the quantum verse.
I'll be venerated someday for this because right now everybody thinks I'm a hack. I'm telling you, reality is much bigger than what we can perceive.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. Catie, sorry. I always feel like
just one more thing. It's not a question, but I don't know why, but I'm getting the sense that you need some healing right now, so I'm sending it to you. Your aura's a bit all over the place.
Who are you talking to?
Micah.
Mm.
So yeah,
I thought you was going to say, Tyson, you look like shit. I was talking to you. No, Micah. Okay, good. Thank you.
No, I tell you if you was ill, darling. I always do. But yeah, that's all I just needed to say. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sending love your way, man. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope you.
Well, I
you
think
feel well.
let me just double check this.
What was I going to say to Micah? Oh, okay. So why do you think the Great Flood, or not the Great Flood, but why do you think the one of these flood myths or resets happened 12,000 years ago? What's the evidence that you point to?
Well, twofold. The Sphinx, the back of it is smooth. After it was dug up out of sand, you would think that it would have been beaten by sand and just broken down like sandpaper. Basically, well, sandpaper makes things smooth, so that's a bad example. But sand beating over it would have left it messed up. But it wasn't. It was smooth. The only time that water ran there, what happened was 12,000 years ago in Egypt, where water just ran there, and it just ran over the Sphinx, which was the melting of the Ice Age. Which also, if you look at the time frame 12,000 years ago when the Sphinx was created, it would be facing the constellation Leo, the lion, at that time, directly facing it. So, circumstantial or just realistic, I think that everybody has a flood story and everyone has a God story.
And if you look at the Sphinx, the human head that's on it now seems much too small for the rest of the body.
Yeah,
and there's a theory that it used to be a lion.
And before then, it used to be Anubis.
And each time they reshaped the head, it got smaller and smaller because you're chiseling away rock, right? So that's why the current human head, the pharaoh head, with no nose, is much, much smaller than the rest of the body because it would have been symmetrical. The head would have been the right size as it was originally designed.
It was Anubis at one point. It was the Egyptian dog god.
Yeah.
Which is why God is dog backwards, which is why religion has dogma too, by the way.
Language.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Oh,
this
cool.
has been
Micah. Yeah,
educational.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Let's do part 3.
Yeah, I would love to. I actually want to say one thing to y'all before. What are you pointing at?
We have another caller.
Oh, really? Okay.
One quick
Back.
one.
All
Quick
right.
one.
Yep.
Speaking of the flood, I was actually curious.
Oh yeah, we
what's
got another
your thoughts
Christian over there.
Yeah, I was wondering what your thoughts were about Noah's Ark and the possibility of it being, say, a genetic database.
That could be an anatomical version of I guess the two pairs, the two strands, that whole thing. Yeah. Possibly.
Makes more sense than two animals of each type.
Yeah.
Right.
And something more sophisticated than a big wooden boat makes more sense too. If you were gonna have a great flood and have life continue to exist.
Yeah, like a pyramid is like an energy portal. That's basically what they are. The pyramids are the energy portals. Most people know that at this point. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Most people that look into things know that. But I don't think the ark was a alchemical experience to that, to be honest. I think Well, the flood story goes back to Gilgamesh, and they
Yeah.
recently found Gilgamesh's tomb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly. It's interesting, you know, where did this original story come from? You know, that's what I've been trying to find. But unfortunately, we only get as far back as the Sumerians.
I
there
think
was
it happens all the time to this Earth. I mean, I think it happened to Mars in a cataclysmic way. It knocked the whole damn atmosphere off. There's a
well, in Mars,
100-mile.
hold on a second. In Mars, in the atmosphere of Mars, there's a radioactive isotope that could have only gotten there through nuclear war.
Really? I mean, I know there's a crater the size of it's like hundreds and hundreds.
Utopia
of
Planitia isn't that the crater? Utopia Planitia.
Yeah, it's where we landed the rover because we figured.
Yeah,
hey,
it's
that's
Utopia
safe.
Planitia.
Yeah, and I mean this was a big thing that hit this planet or blew up on this planet. And then you go back to the dinosaurs with the asteroid theory. I mean, that had to be a cataclysmic thing. It killed all those beautiful creatures we call the dinosaurs. I think it happens a lot on this planet, great floods and great cataclysms. I mean, it's science. It happens. And
We're
so
a little
just
over 4.8 billion years old.
yeah, it
the
happens,
planet.
right? So in recorded human history, it's definitely gone down in many continents around the world with tsunamis and earthquakes, but the great flood that took out the whole world in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Bible and all these holy texts. Interesting.
Just to give you an idea of how old the Earth is, it's about 1/3 the age of the entire universe. The entire universe is 13.8 to 14 billion years old, they said. Earth is about 4.8 billion years old. So think of it as being just about 1/3 as old as the entire universe. I mean, imagine that. This planet is old. It is an old planet. And there are systems out there much older than ours.
Yeah, of course. And Zach, do you prescribe to Christianity in a literal translation, or
I'm a Catholic, but
okay?
I mean,
Sorry, I know. Sorry.
I see the misnomers in the Bible. I mean, I see the similarities to much of the ancient world. I mean, everybody shares. It's like it's no.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way you convert is you take on another culture's spirituality and their faith, right? So,
awesome.
So settle something
and
for
all
me
of
in my
us have
own
said
head
here. Okay, go ahead, Tyson. But
just
we have all
quick
said
question.
is Micah's teachings don't in any way, shape, or form say that God doesn't exist.
Right. Really quick. Was John the Baptist the first pope? Is that what you were taught? I'm just curious. But you're as a Catholic, is it?
As Zach, as a Catholic.
No. The first pope was Peter was the rock, and he was the rock for the reason.
Peter.
He was
I said John. I meant Peter. Yeah.
Of Jesus' church.
Right.
Of
Peter.
course, in Catholicism, Peter was the first ruler.
So
Peter. It was Peter.
That was beating my head.
John the Baptist. It was Peter. It was Peter. That's correct. I messed up. That was my.
John the Baptist is a great. He was the one who obviously baptized Jesus. Started where he started his ministry.
Peter was the first pope. God damn! Why didn't I remember that? Thank you for setting me
You just said
straight.
Peter was the first pope. God damn.
So, but I mean, what? Speaking of like the nuclear fallout, though, wasn't there possible nuclear fallout from in like the Indus Valley?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Speaking of Mars,
that was to Micah.
Okay.
I mean, there's even.
I should have said Micah.
Yeah. But there's even proof of the possibility of nuclear bombs in a lot of these old texts. The Vedas, these ships that could fly around in the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas, in the Hindu and the Indian, Peruvian texts. supposedly ships with these amazing weapons, and they found melted glass, and they found isotopes and radioactive isotopes on this planet that not just Mars, but this planet that
Mm-hmm.
speak to a nuclear explosion in ancient history.
Mhm. I have
So,
to take off, guys, in a minute. By the way.
all right. But
All right.
Micah, I do want to say thank you.
Thank
It was a great time talking to you as always, and hope you get your channel back soon. When you do get it back, where do people go to check out your stuff?
For now, I'm on Rumble.
Okay.
My name is NYDANK, New York Dank.
New York
101.
Dank.
New York Dank 101. My website is debunkmywork.com. I have all my books on it. I have all my videos on it, although the videos on it are going to say this account was terminated. So you're going to see the Rumble link, which is above it, and then you just copy and paste it. I'm going to revamp that, but I just want to see what happens. I don't want to tear it down and then the channel go back up, and then I have to spend another 3 hours. So I'm leaving it as is, but that's basically it.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best. I think we're probably all headed down that path to Rumble and our own website. I'm sure we'll get banned at some point. We get dangerous on this show, so they'll pick on us. They'll pick on us as soon as we get enough followers. But it was always a pleasure, man. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks,
I wanted to, yeah, thanks, man. I wanted to have one more conversation just about aliens. This week, I saw this scientist who was actually an evolutionist type of guy, and he was talking to somebody on this. It was the documentary made by Graham, the guy that did Area 51. That you know what I'm talking about, Tyson?
Are you talking
Graham.
about a director or?
No, he was a reporter for he's a huge in the
I know who you're talking about. I
disclosure
don't
community.
remember his name.
But he has a documentary on Netflix. But anyway, he's talking to this scientist who brings up a really good hypothesis that I found very interesting. He actually took the human all the way from back to Cro-Magnon and before that, and then
Australopithecus.
and went all the way into the great further future, and they hypothesized that our eyes would get bigger and black, and that they were like following the genome and doing this all scientifically, and we look very much like gray aliens. So I really liked this idea that he brought up was that possibly these ships and these things that are flying around that some people
Are us from the future.
Angels, are us from the future stuck in a grandfather paradox. We've found out we've discovered time travel. We've discovered that there are times in our history where things can go wrong, and we're checking back on ourselves. They're stuck in they are stuck in some sort of a grandfather paradox where they have to keep track of us to make sure that they exist. I thought that was a really, really interesting concept. And I'd heard it before, but I'd never heard it, spoken by an actual somebody that could actually do the scientific work to discover what we would look like thousands of years from now. And it was pretty amazing how very much we look like your typical gray alien hundreds of thousands of years from now. Which is good news to me too, because if that actually is the reality, then we've got a lot to look forward to. So I hope that's the reality. What a weird thing to be, though. Like, say we found time travel tomorrow, and we had to go back and make sure that Kennedy did the right thing in the oh man, I think it's time to end the show. I'm so tired. I can't even think. The nuclear missile crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
The Cuban Missile Crisis, right?
Yeah, I'm sure that if we had time travel, we'd be up there in our F-15s, like, make sure this doesn't happen. You know.
Well, it would settle a lot of questions for us too. Did Jesus exist? Was he crucified? Did this happen? I mean, if you go back in time, you can see for yourself.
Yeah. And by the way, if you want to see a really, really good short film, go watch a film by Roddenberry Entertainment called Instant that talks a little bit about time travel and going back to meet Jesus. It's actually quite a good film. I happen to be in it. That's not why it's good. It's actually really good because of many other people. But great show tonight. Thank you, Micah Dank. Thank you to my host, Tyson Strasberg. Thank you to ClickTight for letting us premiere their video, which will be out, including the song The Situation, around 12 midnight our time here in America. Check it out. Share it on your social media. ClickTight is making amazing music, and you're going to start seeing it in movies and films. And don't you want to say, like, you were one of the first people that were following ClickTight and listening to their stuff?
Got to see it first. Brought out the flashlight and everything. Also, a special thank you to Catie, who worked so hard on this program, and Mala and Catie for their contribution.
Yeah, the entire DT family. Also, please subscribe. Please like the channel. The faster we grow, the better we grow. We also have some great merchandise over at dangerousthoughts.show that's going to be coming up very soon. We also have very interesting things over on our website if you like the show. Katie's Corner, we've got a lot of info that's on her blog. We've got a lot of fun stuff to look at over there that's only going to grow over the next few months. So please check out dangerousthoughts.show. Like, subscribe to the channel. Keep your thoughts dangerous. Keep your mind open. And we will see you next week. And I think next week we have L.A. Marzulli on the program, who just take the time to Google L.A. Marzulli, and you'll see how much fun we're going to have next week on Dangerous Thoughts.
Get dead on the edge.
Take it to them. Ruin their motivation to survive. Robbers hide is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, your knees collapsing away. Hey, gorilla hearted, I be in my chest to stay alive. Take it to them. Ruin their motivation to survive. Robbers hide is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, your knees collapsing away. Gorilla hearted, I be in my chest to stay alive. Hey.
Whoa!